Hi everybody and welcome back to the George Collection. I'm Rachel Rightside Blonde. Let's talk about advertisements here. John Kennedy Jr. put a lot of information in his magazines, a lot of which I've gone through in the last 96 episodes of this show, including coincidences and also just stories in general that would help us make sense of what's happening now. But what I find interesting is sometimes the advertisements can tell a story as well. For instance, in the first issue of George, there was a Tiffany blue box right next to the contents page. And in the same issue, the inaugural issue, there was a car ad that says, "Welcome to the New World Order." At least in the first 3 issues, I did not see that car ad again. It was just in the inaugural issue. I also did a show on a Q45 ad, which was very interesting, talking about voting. And so if you didn't catch that one, I'll post that right here. 26 years ago, in November of 1996, this is the ad that John Kennedy Jr. used inside the front cover of the magazine. The inaugural issue was jam-packed with ads. That's why it was so much thicker than a lot of the other issues. But when thumbing through some of those ads, it seemed like there were 10 watch advertisements in the first issue. So I actually went back and counted, and there's actually only 4. So I don't know where I got 10, but it seemed like there were 10. There was actually only 4. I would say most of the advertisements are for clothing. There are some for alcohol, music. Actually, I was looking through this and it made me want to go back and listen to some Tracy Chapman and Dave Matthews Band. And what was the other one? Hootie and the Blowfish. Classic 90s bands. One thing I learned while creating a magazine is that it's really easy to manipulate where you put certain things. You have sole control over where the advertisements go. So is it far-fetched to say that John Kennedy put certain things on certain pages or in certain parts of the magazine or certain ads in? No. A lot of those ads came from the advertisers. It's not like he had control over what the ad said, but it's just interesting that it's in George and it's recorded for all to see. It's a coincidence that the letter Q and 45 are used together in an ad, and then right after that it's talking about voting. Was this done on purpose? Was it done by happenstance? I guess we don't know, but I still think it's really interesting to go through and document for myself and then for all of you. Before I let you go, I wanted to share something with you, and that is if you find yourself at a trivia night and the question just happens to be, what is the very first advertisement in the inaugural issue of George magazine? I'm going to give you the answer so you can at least get that question correct. The answer is not Calvin Klein, it's not Versace, it is in fact Saturn, the car. And it's really interesting because there's a big red box that says, hey, wait a second, weren't we supposed to be out of business by now? Kind of ironic because Saturn is out of business now. But at least you'll get that one trivia question right. That does it for this episode of the George Collection. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.
Magazine, George, which is a hoot of a magazine. I thought you were a lawyer.
I was.
What happened?
Well, we decided, actually taking a cue from folks like yourself and you around the 1992 election, that there was an opportunity here to change the definition of a political magazine. Certainly the way Americans were accessing information about politics and politicians was changing. Candidates were appearing on late-night talk shows, on talk radio, on sitcoms, And there was a kind of a leveling process, and while the rest of media clearly had caught up with that, we felt that political magazines per se hadn't.
Your mother was a hell of an editor at Doubleday.
That's what I hear.
Would she have liked George?
I think she would have.